On my sister's 21st birthday, my parents told me to buy her a BMW using the trust my grandmother left for my future. When I said no, my father slammed me into a wall hard enough to split my lip. By the time I made it to the ER, they were still trying to get me to sign. My mother kept smiling like nothing was wrong. My sister still wore her birthday sash like she'd already won, and I was the problem for not playing along. Hours later, a man in a charcoal suit walked in and set a briefcase on the table. He opened it, slid a document forward, and tapped one line. That single sentence wiped the smile off my father's face. Just like that, the room went quiet. The ER lights were too bright for a Tuesday afternoon. That was the first clear thought I had after the nurse pressed gauze against my lip and told me to hold still. Not, how did it get this bad? Not what happens next, just the lights flat, white, unforgiving. They made everything look sharper than it felt. The tile, the paper lining the exam table, the dried blood on my knuckles. My phone lay beside my thigh, screen spiderwebbed from where it had skidded across bathroom tile. Every vibration sent a dull pulse through my hand. I didn't pick it up right away. I just watched it buzz, like it belonged to someone else, through the narrow window in the exam room door. I could see them. My mother pacing, hand pressed to her chest, face arranged into concern perfect for anyone watching. My father stood still, arms crossed, jaw tight, not worried, waiting. Like this was an inconvenience he planned to fix. And my sister Lila sat near the vending machines, still wearing that pink birthday sash across her chest. 21 today. I was 24, sitting in an ER with a split lip, a swelling cheek, and the same hoodie I'd been wearing when I tried to walk out of my own house. My phone buzzed again. I picked it up this time. Daniel Whitmore. 3 messages. Got your text. I'm on my way. Do not sign anything. Do not speak to them alone. Something in my chest dropped and tightened at the same time. Relief didn't feel clean. It felt like shock hitting a different angle. I pressed my palm flat against the table, steadying myself as the nausea rolled through. I wasn't alone. That thought landed harder than the pain. 2 hours earlier, I'd been sitting on my bathroom floor, back against the tub, listening to my father hit the door hard enough to crack the frame. I'd typed with shaking hands. Emergency. They're trying to force me to use my trust. It got physical. I'm heading to County ER off I-85. Please. Even now, staring at Daniel's response, part of me still didn't believe anyone was actually coming. When you grow up as the extra kid, the one who keeps things quiet, keeps things moving, you stop expecting someone to step in. You learn to take the hit, smooth it over, be the one who doesn't make it worse. Be the man, handle it. My grandmother never said that. She said, protect what's yours, even if they don't like it. That was the only reason I was still sitting upright. A nurse stepped back into the room, adjusted the gauze, and gave me a look that lingered half a second longer than it should have. Doesn't look like a fall, she said quietly. Through the glass. My mother caught my eye and lifted her hand in a small, practiced wave, the kind she used at church, the kind that said, everything is fine. Her eyes said something else, calculation. The nurse's voice softened. Do you feel safe going home? I looked at the cracked phone in my hand, then back at the door. No, I said. The word came out low, solid. Like it had been waiting a long time. I wasn't the difficult kid. I was the easy one. That's what my mother used to say to people at church, smiling like it was a compliment. Ethan never gives us trouble. Ethan understands how hard we work. Ethan knows how to be grateful. What she meant was, I didn't ask for much. And when I did, it got postponed. Let's talk about that later. Your sister needs this right now. We'll figure yours out. Later never came. Lila didn't wait for later. She didn't have to. Things just happened for her. New phone, dance classes, spring break trips. When she decided she wanted something, the house shifted to make space for it. I learned to stay out of the way of that gravity. I kept my head down, picked practical things, took online classes so I wouldn't be inconvenient, worked part-time, saved what I could, told myself I was building something quiet and solid. I thought if I didn't push, I wouldn't be pushed back. I was wrong. The only person who ever called it what it was my grandmother. Margaret Mercer didn't believe in pretending. She didn't lower her voice when she said things people didn't want to hear. She didn't soften the truth to keep the peace. When she looked at my parents, it wasn't with fear or approval. It was with assessment, like she was measuring them. At family dinners, she'd sit across from me and ask direct questions. What are you working toward? What do you need? Are they helping you? Or just using you? The first time she said that last one, my mother laughed too loudly. Oh, Margaret, don't be dramatic. My grandmother didn't even look at her. She looked at me and waited. I didn't answer. Not out loud. But something in me shifted that day. Like a sentence had been said that I wasn't supposed to hear yet. When she died, I was 19. The funeral was packed. My mother cried hard, loud enough that people turned. My father stood straight, silent, like he was enduring something inconvenient. Lila wore a black dress that didn't quite fit the room and checked her phone between condolences. I stood near the casket and felt not just grief, clarity. 2 weeks later, Daniel Whitmore called. He introduced himself as my grandmother's attorney. His voice was controlled, precise, the kind of voice that didn't waste words because it didn't have to. Your grandmother left you a trust, he said. $240,000. I sat down. Accessible at 23. Structured for specific use: education, housing, healthcare, and long-term development. Certifications, investments in your future stability. He paused, just long enough for it to register. Only you can authorize disbursements, and only within those terms. I remember staring at the wall, feeling something unfamiliar. Security. What about my parents? I asked. Another pause, slightly longer. Your grandmother anticipated pressure, he said carefully. That's why she structured it this way. No one had ever said that word about me before. Protected. A month before I turned 23, Daniel forwarded me a letter. Handwritten. My grandmother's. The paper still smelled faintly like cedar, like her closet, like her house, like the only place that had ever felt steady. Ethan, they will come for what's yours. They always do. They will call it family. They will call it love. They will tell you it's selfish to say no. It isn't. That money is not a gift for them to redistribute. It is a bridge for you to get out. If you ever feel cornered, call Daniel. Don't explain. Don't argue. Just call. I read that letter 3 times. Then I folded it and held it against my chest, standing alone in my room. I will, I said out loud. At the time, it felt like a promise I might never need to use, like something distant, the kind of warning you think you'll recognize early enough to avoid. I didn't understand yet how quiet it would be when it started, how normal it would look. A birthday, a car, a family conversation. I didn't realize I'd already been walking toward that moment for years. And that when it came, it wouldn't feel like a surprise. It would feel like something finally happening. The morning started loud, not chaotic, deliberate. Lila woke the house up at exactly 7. Music blasting through the hallway speakers, bass heavy enough to rattle the picture frames. I lay there for a few seconds, staring at the ceiling, listening to her laugh echo down the stairs. My mother's voice followed, bright, excited, already performing. Birthday girl. I closed my eyes. 4 seconds, maybe 5. Then, I got up. There was no version of that day where I stayed in bed and avoided it. I knew that before my feet hit the floor. By 8, the house smelled like vanilla candles and something sweet in the oven. My mother always did that when she needed things to feel warm, controlled, presentable. Lila was in the kitchen wearing a tiara, filming herself on her phone. 21, she said to the camera, spinning once, finally. My father sat at the table with a stack of papers in front of him. Not hidden, not subtle, just there. Like he wanted me to notice. I did. I poured coffee, black, stood at the counter, not sitting down. That had become a habit over the years. Don't settle into spaces that aren't meant for you. Around noon, my bedroom door opened without a knock. Family meeting. My mother said. I didn't look up from my laptop. I'm in class. You're on a computer, she replied. That's not class. It's do it downstairs. Now, her tone wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. I closed the laptop. When I walked into the living room, it felt arranged. My father was in his recliner, centered like a judge, arms resting on the sides, posture set. Lila sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, sash still across her chest. My mother stood just behind my father's shoulder, hands loosely folded. A formation. On the coffee table sat a glossy folder. Dealership logo stamped across the front. I recognized it from a billboard off I-85. My father pointed at the armchair across from him. Sit. I didn't move. I stayed near the doorway. Something about the setup made sitting feel like agreeing. My mother's smile tightened just slightly. Ethan, don't be difficult. What is this? I asked. Lila leaned forward, practically bouncing. It's happening. My father reached forward, picked up the folder, and slid a document across the table toward the empty chair. Like he was dealing a hand. I didn't sit, but I stepped closer. The number hit first. $54,800. Printed in bold, clean font. Below it, line items, down payment, dealership fees, and then the line that made my stomach drop. Payment method: cash, trust, disbursement. Already filled in. We thought you could just write a check, Lila said, Like we were discussing dinner plans. You have that trust thing, Grandma's money, she smiled. It's not like you earned it. I didn't respond right away. I just looked at the paper. Then, at them. 3 people, already in agreement. Already finished with the conversation before I'd walked into the room. This wasn't a discussion. It was a setup, and I had just stepped into it. I didn't sit down. I stayed standing beside the armchair. The paper still on the table between us like something already decided. My trust doesn't work like that, I said. I kept my voice level. Not defensive, just factual. It's restricted. Education, housing, medical, future planning. My mother nodded immediately. Like I'd just made her point for her. Exactly, she said. And your future includes your family. I looked at her. No, I said. It doesn't include buying a car. Lila let out a short, sharp laugh. It's not just a car, it's my car. My father leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees. You're buying it, he said, not a suggestion. Not even framed like a request, a decision. I exhaled slowly through my nose. No, the word sat there. Clean. Heavy. For a second. Nobody spoke. Then my mother's expression shifted, subtle. But immediate. The softness dropped out. Ethan, she said, quieter now. Don't make this into something it doesn't need to be. It already is, I said. Lila's smile faded. Not hurt, offended. Are you serious right now? She said. You're going to do this on my birthday. I didn't look at her. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm not spending my trust on this. You're not spending, she snapped. You're helping your sister. It's $45,000. 54. My father corrected without looking at me. Like that made it more reasonable. I let out a short breath. Almost a laugh. But without humor. That's my housing, I said. That's me getting out of here. My mother's eyes sharpened. Getting out, she repeated. Is that what you think this is? It is, I said. Her voice dropped another degree. After everything we've done for you. There it was. The invoice. I felt something in my chest tighten, not guilt. Recognition. I didn't ask for this, I said. Any of it, Lila scoffed. Oh my God. Listen to yourself. You've had it easy your entire life, she continued. You sit in your room, do your little online classes. Don't pay rent, I pay for my own barely, she cut in. And now when I actually need something, you suddenly have boundaries. Need. That word again. You don't need a BMW, I said. She stared at me like I'd just insulted her existence. It's not about need, she said. It's about what I deserve. That landed. There it was, out loud. My father stood up, slow, controlled. You will call Whitmore, he said. And you will authorize the disbursement. I won't. You will. I won't. The room tightened around that exchange. My mother stepped in quickly, placing a hand on Lila's shoulder. Do you hear how selfish that sounds, she said to me. Your sister has worked so hard at what? The question came out before I could stop it. Silence. Lila's face flushed red. Excuse me? At what? I repeated. Calmer, now. What has she done that requires me to give up my future? My mother's voice snapped. That is not your place to question. It is when it's my money. Watch your tone, my father said. I met his eyes. I'm not buying the car. That was it. That was the line. Lila's eyes filled instantly, tears on command. This is unbelievable, she said, voice shaking. You've always been like this, always jealous. I didn't respond. My mother pulled her closer. He doesn't understand sacrifice, she said, loud enough for me to hear. He never has. I understand it perfectly, I said. That's the problem. My father took a step toward me. I didn't move. You think you can just walk away from this, he said. I am walking away. His jaw tightened. After everything we've given you, you didn't give me this, I said, nodding toward the paper. Grandma did. Wrong thing to say. The shift was immediate. My mother's expression went flat, completely blank. My father's voice dropped lower. Your grandmother didn't trust us, he said. She had a reason. The silence that followed felt sharp. Dangerous. Lila stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. My mother's voice came out slow. Controlled. You ungrateful. I'm not buying her a BMW, I said, louder now. That's it. My father's hands flexed at his sides. Then you can leave, he said. No hesitation, no build-up. If you walk out that door without doing this, don't come back. I held his gaze. For a second. Something in me wavered. Not doubt. Conditioning. Years of it. Stay, fix it, don't make it worse. Then, I looked at Lila. The sash, the tiara, the expectation sitting in her eyes like it had always belonged there. I looked at my mother, already rewriting this moment in her head. I looked back at my father. And something inside me went still, not scared, done. Then, I guess I'm not family, I said. The words came out calm. They didn't feel calm. They felt like stepping off something solid and realizing there was no ground underneath. I turned, started down the hallway, 3 steps. That's all I made it. Then I heard it. Boots on hardwood, fast, decisive. And I knew this wasn't over. You learn to read sound when you grow up in a house like mine. Voices tell you one thing. Silence tells you another. But footsteps tell you exactly how bad it's about to get. My father's boots hit the floor behind me. Fast and heavy, not yelling, worse. I didn't turn around. I made it halfway down the hallway before his hand closed around my arm. Hard. The pressure shot up my shoulder instantly. Don't, I said. He yanked me backward. Let go of me. My voice cracked on the last word. I hated that. Stop acting like a child, he snapped. I'm not. The rest of the sentence never landed. He shoved me sideways into the wall. My shoulder hit first, then my head. A dull, sharp impact that knocked the air out of my chest. The hallway tilted for half a second. Like the house itself had shifted. A framed family photo slid crooked on the wall, then dropped. Glass exploded across the hardwood floor. For a second, nobody moved. Then Lila screamed. High, sharp, not fear shock. My mother didn't yell at him. She yelled at me. Look what you're making him do. That hit harder than the wall. Something in me snapped. Not loud, not dramatic, just clean. I shoved against my father's chest, not strong enough to knock him back, but enough to break contact. That was all I needed. I moved. Up the stairs, 2 at a time. Behind me. His voice rose. Finally. Ethan. My mother's followed. Almost lighter. Like this could still be fixed. Don't be dramatic. We can talk about this. I didn't stop. I hit my bedroom door, slammed it shut, and locked it without thinking. My hands were already shaking. Not fear. Adrenaline crash. The kind that makes everything feel too fast and too slow at the same time. I grabbed my phone off the desk. My thumb hovered over Daniel's number. Pressed call. It rang once, twice. Then I heard it. Boots on the stairs. Closer. Every step louder than the last. Panic surged through me cold. Immediate. I ended the call. Coward. One part of my brain said, survive. Another answered. I ran into the bathroom and locked that door too. Thin wood, cheap lock. I knew it wouldn't hold. I sank down against the tub anyway. Knees pulled in, phone in my hand. My fingers wouldn't stay steady. I typed anyway. Emergency. They're trying to force me to use my trust. It got physical. I need help. Send. The hit against my bedroom door came a second later. Hard enough to rattle the frame. I flinched. Another hit. Wood cracked. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head. Clear as if she was standing in the room. They will come for what's yours. The bathroom handle jerked. Once. Twice. Then the lock gave. 40 seconds. That's how long it took. After that. Things don't replay clean. Memory cuts. Pieces instead of sequence. I remember the door slamming open. I remember my father's shadow filling the space. I remember my phone slipping from my hand, hitting tile. Skidding screen cracking further. I remember pulling in on myself. Instinct. Making less of a target. I remember my mother's voice somewhere above it all. You did this to yourself. I remember Lila crying in the hallway. Not for me, not really. For the day that had been interrupted. Everything after that blurs. Sound, movement, pressure. Then quiet. It took me longer than it should have to sit up. Every movement sent nausea rolling through me. My phone was near the baseboard. Screen barely holding together. Still lit. Daniel Whitmore. I'm coming. If you can get out, go to the ER. I'm contacting police. Someone believed me. That thought cut through everything else. I pushed myself up. Grabbed my keys. My wallet. Didn't think beyond that. Just one word. Leave. The front door was open. The hallway still littered with broken glass. The family photo face down on the floor. Perfect smiles. Shattered. I stepped over it. Outside. The November air hit like a slap. Cold, clean, real. I dropped my keys once before I got them into the ignition. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. The clock on the dashboard read 2:17 p.m. I backed out too fast. Tires catching slightly on the curb. Didn't look back. Didn't check mirrors longer than I had to. Just drove. Street signs blurred together. Stoplights. Turns I didn't fully remember making. All I knew was the direction. Away. The ER sign came into view like something solid in the distance. Like instructions. Like proof there was still somewhere I could go that wasn't that house. I pulled into the lot harder than I meant to. Engine still running for a second after I parked. Breathing. Then I shut it off. And stepped out. By the time Daniel Whitmore walked into the ER, something inside me had already shifted. Not healed. Not safe, just no longer pretending this was something I could fix on my own. The door opened without ceremony. He stepped in like he belonged there. Charcoal suit. Silver hair. No rush in his movements, no hesitation either. The kind of presence that didn't ask for space, it took it quietly. A younger woman followed him in, carrying a leather briefcase that looked heavier than it should have been. "Ethan," he said. That was it. No panic. No overreaction. Just my name. I didn't realize how much I needed that until I heard it. "Thank you for coming," I said. My voice came out rough. He gave a small nod, then looked at me, really looked. Split lip. Swelling cheek. Hospital bracelet. Hands still not steady. His expression didn't soften. It sharpened. He turned to the nurse. "Has everything been documented?" "Yes, photos. Preliminary notes. I need copies of all of it," he said. "Full report from the attending physician, timeline from triage." His tone was calm, precise. Like this wasn't chaos. Like this was a process. He turned back to me. "Did they try to make you sign anything?" "No," I said. "They wanted me to agree before we got here." His jaw tightened slightly. Then he reached for the briefcase, set it on the chair beside him, opened it. The first document he pulled out had a raised seal that caught the harsh light. "Temporary protection order," he said. My fingers tightened around the edge of the table. "Effective immediately. Your parents are prohibited from contacting you, approaching you, or interfering with your financial accounts. That includes indirect contact." I blinked. "How?" "Emergency judge," he said. "Emergency hearing," like it was nothing. Like this was routine. He slid the paper closer to me. My name. Their names. Legal language that didn't bend, didn't argue, didn't care about family, just fact. "They can't touch your trust," he continued, "or attempt to influence it in any capacity. Any violation escalates this." Behind the glass, I could see movement, an officer handing my father a set of papers, my mother leaning in, reading over his shoulder. At first confusion, then stillness. My father read it again, slower. His posture changed, just slightly. But I saw it. For the first time in my life, he didn't look in control. Daniel pulled out a second document. "Notice to financial institutions," he said. "Your bank, your school accounts, any account tied to your name. We're removing your parents from all points of contact." I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "You are an adult," he added. "They have no legal standing." No one had ever said that to me like it mattered, like it was real. He set down a third document. "Protective filing," he said. "Formal record of coercion. If they attempt to pursue this through any other channel, civil court, family court, this is already documented." Outside the room, my mother's face shifted. The performance cracked. No more wide-eyed concern. Just calculation failing. My father's eyes lifted. Found mine through the glass. There was a question in them. A realization. This wasn't something he could talk his way out of. This wasn't inside the house anymore. Daniel followed my line of sight, then spoke quietly. "This is the moment they understand," he said. "You are not theirs to control." The words didn't feel dramatic. They felt accurate. An officer stepped closer to them, said something I couldn't hear. My mother shook her head immediately. Denial, instinct. My father didn't move. He just stood there, holding the paper like it had weight. Real weight. Daniel closed the briefcase halfway, then looked back at me. "There's more," he said. "But first..." He paused. Just slightly. "Are you ready to proceed?" I knew what he meant. Not paperwork, not logistics. What came next? Charges, statements, consequences, things that didn't get undone. I looked at my hands, still shaking. But less now. I thought about the hallway, the wall, the sound of glass breaking, my mother's voice. "Look what you're making him do." I looked back up. "Yeah," I said. My voice didn't waver this time. "I am." Daniel gave a single nod, then turned toward the door. And for the first time that day, I wasn't the one being moved. Detective Harper introduced herself without rushing. Mid-40s, steady voice. The kind of presence that didn't push but didn't let things slide either. She pulled a chair closer to the exam table and sat down like she had time. "Ethan," she said, "I need you to walk me through what happened. No assumptions, no leading, just space." I glanced once at Daniel. He gave a small nod. So I told her. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't soften it either. I told her about the living room, the folder, the number printed at the top like it was already decided. I told her about the line cash, trust disbursement already filled in before I ever walked into the room. I told her about my father's hand on my arm. The wall. The sound of the frame breaking. The glass on the floor. I told her about my mother. How she didn't stop him. How she said it. Look what you're making him do. Detective Harper didn't interrupt. She wrote things down, occasionally asked for a detail. Which arm left? How many times did he strike the door? At least twice before it gave. Did you feel free to leave the home at that point? No. That last one sat in the air for a second. Then she nodded. When I finished, she looked at her notes. Then back at me. This is not a misunderstanding, she said. This is coercion tied to a financial asset. With physical assault. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Hearing it named like that, clinical, did something to me. It took it out of the gray. I'd spent years being told everything in that house was normal. That I was overreacting. Misunderstanding. Making things worse. Now there was a word for it, several. And none of them were mine to carry. Detective Harper shifted slightly. Do you want to press charges? She asked. The question wasn't heavy, but it landed that way. Because it wasn't just about what happened. It was about what came after. There's a rule you grow up with. Even if no one says it out loud, you don't take your family to court. You don't make it public. You don't cross that line. Even when they cross every line with you. I looked at Daniel. He didn't speak, didn't push. Just watched, waiting for my answer. I thought about the years. About shrinking. Adjusting. Letting things go because it was easier than fighting. I thought about the letter. Don't argue, don't explain. Protect what's yours. I thought about the hallway. The wall. The moment something in me stopped trying to keep the peace, and I realized if I walked this back, nothing would change, not really. They would adjust the story, smooth it out, turn it into something manageable, and I'd go back to being the one who absorbed it. No, I said quietly. Then, I corrected myself. Yes. I met her eyes. I want to press charges. The words didn't feel explosive. They felt final. Detective Harper nodded once. Like that answer made sense. All right, she said. We'll move forward. Through the glass, another officer approached my parents. Second set of documents in hand. My mother's face lit up when she saw him. Relief. Immediate. She thought it was help. That this was still something she could redirect. She took the papers first, started reading. Her smile froze halfway through the first line. Then it disappeared. My father stepped in, took the documents from her. Scanned them once, then again, slower. His grip tightened on the pages, his jaw slackened just slightly. He looked up, not at the officer, at me, and for the first time I saw it. Not anger, not control, uncertainty. Behind him, Lila leaned in, trying to read over his shoulder. Her tiara tilted, her expression confused like the script had changed and no one had told her. My mother started talking again. Fast, controlled, trying to explain, trying to fix. The officer didn't react, just stood there. Let the paper speak. Daniel watched it all unfold without moving. They're realizing it now, he said quietly. I didn't ask what he meant. I could see it. This wasn't inside the house anymore. There were no raised voices to overpower. No rewriting the narrative mid-sentence. No turning it into something softer. This was documented, filed, real. Daniel closed the briefcase with a soft click. Next steps are already in motion, he said. They'll be contacted through counsel. I let out a slow breath. Something in my chest loosened. Not relief. Not yet. But something close. For the first time in years this wasn't mine to carry alone. I left the hospital through a side exit. Daniel had arranged it that way. No passing the waiting room. No accidental eye contact. No last attempt at rewriting what had already been set in motion. A patrol officer walked me to my car. The air outside felt colder than before. But cleaner. Like something had been stripped away. That night, I didn't go back home. I went to a furnished apartment Daniel had already secured 20 minutes away. Different zip code, small, neutral, temporary, safe. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in the same hoodie, and let the silence settle. Then my phone started lighting up. Family. Extended family. Numbers I didn't even have saved. Your mother is devastated. Just talk to them. Family doesn't do this. You're overreacting. I scrolled through them without responding. Then Lila. I know you hate me. I didn't think Dad would go that far. I'm sorry. I stared at that message for a long time. Lila had always been sorry. Sorry when things went too far. Sorry when I got blamed. Sorry right up until the moment she still benefited from it. I turned the phone face down. The cracks in the screen caught the lamplight like a fracture running through everything. 3 days later, a man named Martin Keene called. Smooth voice, controlled tone, the kind of calm that comes from years of talking people out of things. He represented my parents. He wanted to discuss a resolution. Daniel had him on speaker before the second sentence finished. Your clients attempted to coerce a protected financial asset and engaged in physical assault, Daniel said. There is no resolution. A pause. I wasn't aware you were involved, Keene replied. Now you are. The call ended. Just like that, 2 weeks later, charges were filed. Assault, conspiracy, intimidation. Words that didn't bend around the word family. The arraignment came and went. Then, months later, the offer, plea deal. My father, 6 months county jail. My mother, probation. Mandatory counseling. Protection order, extended. If it went to trial, it would get worse for them. Daniel explained everything clearly. Options, outcomes, risks. Then he asked the only question that mattered. What do you need? I was sitting in a different place by then. Boulder. I'd transferred. Changed programs. Started over in a city where no one knew my last name. The sky felt wider there. Or maybe I just had space to notice it. I looked at the cracked phone on the table in front of me. Still kept it. Didn't fix it. Didn't replace it. A reminder. I need them to say it, I said. On record, no excuses. Daniel nodded. We can make that part of the agreement. So I accepted the deal. Not for them. For me, the hearing was quiet. I watched through a video feed from a conference room on campus. My father stood in front of the judge. Shoulders tighter than I'd ever seen them. He read from a prepared statement. On November 13th, I used physical force against my adult son, after he refused to use his inheritance to purchase a vehicle for my younger daughter. His voice was flat, controlled. My actions caused injury requiring medical treatment. I accept responsibility, not apology, not remorse, but truth. My mother followed. I participated in pressuring my son. I did not protect him. I accept responsibility. The judge didn't soften anything. Parents are meant to protect, she said. Not exploit or harm for financial gain. The pleas were entered, sentences assigned, and just like that, it was on record, not hidden, not rewritten, real. I sat there for a long time after the screen went dark. Hand pressed against my chest, breathing, not forgiveness, something else, release. Boulder became home in a way nothing else ever had. I started therapy. At first, I didn't say much, just showed up, sat, listened. Dr. Kim didn't push. She named things. Favoritism, coercion, scapegoating. Words I'd lived inside without ever having language for. You were taught that your boundaries were selfish, she said once. I looked at the floor. Yeah. And now? I took a breath. Now I think they're the only reason I made it out, she nodded. Like that answer mattered. I finished my program, shifted into clinical work, focused on young adults coming out of unstable or controlling homes, people who didn't know how to say no without feeling like they were breaking something permanent. I understood that too well. The trust wasn't a windfall, it was a bridge. Rent, tuition, certifications, piece by piece, it carried me forward exactly like my grandmother intended. Daniel stayed in my life. Not intrusive, just present. A check-in, a confirmation, a quiet kind of accountability. In my office, I hung my grandmother's photo. Margaret Mercer. Half smile, sharp eyes, like she already knew how all of this would go. And in the bottom drawer of my desk, I kept the phone, still cracked, still working. A reminder of the day I stopped negotiating with people who only valued me when I gave something up. 10 years later, my phone rang with an unknown number. For a second, my body reacted before my mind did. Tension, stillness, that old instinct to brace. Then, I answered, Ethan. I recognized her voice immediately. Lila, older, thinner around the edges, like something in her had worn down over time. Please don't hang up, she said quickly. I know I don't have the right to call. I need to say something. I didn't say anything. I stepped off the sidewalk and stood near the edge of the park, watching a kid kick leaves into the air. Say it, I said. There was a pause. Then, I'm sorry. Not rushed, not rehearsed. Different. I've been in therapy, she continued, for years. And I didn't understand it back then. Or I did. And I chose not to see it. Her voice shook slightly. I watched them do it to you. I benefited from it. And I told myself it wasn't that bad, because if it was, then I was part of it. I closed my eyes for a second. Why now? I asked. Mom had a stroke last month, she said. She's alive. But it forced me to stop pretending. A breath. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I see it now. We talked for a while. Not about fixing anything. Not about going back. Just two people who grew up in the same house, finally calling it what it was. When the call ended, I didn't feel pulled in either direction. No rush to reconnect, no urge to shut it down, just calm. Maybe something new would grow from it. Maybe it wouldn't. Either way I was okay, because somewhere along the way, I learned the one thing they never wanted me to understand. I didn't need their permission to be whole. If this story hit you in any way, take a second to subscribe and share your thoughts. Stories like this matter more than people think. This content is created by Fish Tells Stories for entertainment purposes only. Do not attempt to replicate any actions shown.